Scott, one thing you and I talked about is the lack of an integrated strategy in terms of social media, and we've got all these pieces now with traditional broadcast part of it. What do you think? A lot of people don't have an integrated strategy. There's all these pieces. What do you think about that relative to broadcasting and in general?
Well, this is something Chaka referred to earlier, is that you really can't just sit there and go and say, ooh, all right, we've got our an RSS front, or an RSS view of our front page on Twitter and Facebook. Therefore, we're doing social media, and oh wow, this is great. Google Hangouts looks good. Let's add that. There's a combination of strategy and end-to-end technology as well that have to be tied together. First of all is knowing where your audience is, and that's it's the first thing that any small business, any business should look at, is knowing who your audience is and where they are, and that's where you've got to go and be finding them. And I'll just point out that in my consulting practice, one of the things I found over and over and over again was that the first or second most useful social media site for any given client was usually not one of the big three. It was usually some niche, specialty focused community where they could reach a very, very high concentration of their target audience, their target market. Mm-hmm. And that may be very much the case for this as it proliferates. The place may not be to sit there and go that all of a sudden you're worldwide and you're providing news. I mean, how much market is there for how many shows can actually go and do a couch that goes worldwide without any more regional or topical focus than that? Okay, you're getting to do that now because you're the early adopter. Okay, and you're going to build an audience, and you'll get to continue to have one. But for new people coming into it, they're going to have to find a focus, whether it's geographic or topical, and the places to go and share that and find show participants as well as audience may not be in the big 3 or 4 sites on a large scale. It may be finding the niche communities within those, or even niche topical communities around whatever their topic is. And so as part of that overall social media strategy, you've got to include finding that targeted market as part of your social media strategy. The other thing is just that, I know that Jen, Jen, I know you're going to just know exactly what I'm talking about, is even knowing a whole lot about social media, just the work of getting content in appropriately contextualized out to the different platforms is just a massive undertaking, and we don't generally have very good tools for doing it. We've got I liken it to, you can have the blueprint, you got the strategy, I've got the guidelines as to what the house is going to look like when it's finished and what all needs to be in it, and I can have my toolbox that I know how to use a wrench, and I know how to use a screwdriver, and I know how to use a hammer, but just because I have the blueprint and a toolbox doesn't mean I know how to build the house. And this is the thing I think organizations of all sizes are finding particularly challenged about social media, and this is actually one of the places where they're having one of the most difficult times with ROI, is because the costs of it are so high. A lot of them haven't even figured out, it's like, okay, great, I can use Hootsuite to post to Twitter and Facebook at the same time, and that's why they only post to Twitter and Facebook, because Hootsuite only supports 2 or 3 channels. When you start thinking about social media not only for engagement purposes but for SEO purposes, you should probably have 20 or 30 channels you're publishing to. And it shouldn't be any more difficult to publish to the 20 or 30 channels than it is to publish to the 2 or 3. So I think that I think that one of the big trends for for 2012 in social media is going to be what I'll call sensible automation, which is not. There are some things that actually should happen completely automatically. There are some things that just absolutely should happen completely automatically. There are some things that should be facilitated, but I think we've got to start getting our technology to do some of the heavy lifting, but in a way that still keeps engagement authentic. So I think there's a big opportunity there, and this is certainly going to be a piece of this. Great, we've had this Hangout. What happens next, right? We capture the video. I mean, really, from here, wouldn't you really like it to basically be, all right, we've captured this whole thing, press one button at the end, say we're done, and the video is posted out to 37 video sites, and your link is shared across, your link is shared across the sites where you actually engage, and then you've got, and then you're watching for feedback from those sites, specifically about links to this, so you can, for the next 24 to 48 hours, focus on making sure you've got high responsiveness to comments about this particular artifact that we've created. That's my ideal world. And we're not there yet. And there's a lot of technology, that's got to come into place to make that stuff happen. Right now, it's still a lot of heavy lifting, and we shouldn't have to be doing that heavy lifting.
I agree.